Let's Eat Grandma is like the best band name I've heard in ages, and they are in fact a musical duo from the UK. They've had an album a while back that I didn't know of, and I have just only discovered them now because this week, apart from the biggest releases, there hasn't been much in the way of indie releases, and I discovered this one through other music people talk about it. I must admit I immediately wanted to check it out because of the name of their band, but it turns out that they're actually pretty art poppy, experimental, ethereal, new wavy, strange, eclectic, all buzzwords to describe music. But I must admit I'm pretty happy that I checked out the music here because there's some pretty cool stuff. There's some really interesting ideas and strange tracks that follow odd melodies. But I must admit, this hasn't quite clicked with me the way I wanted it to. It's a really cool release and some great ideas that I hope they carry forward in the future. But as a body of work, do I feel like this, from start to finish, keeps me, entertained, keeps me grasp to what's going on? I don't think so. I know some people have already pointed this out, so I'm going to mention it too. The flow. The flow of this album for me isn't right. Like I understand that as individual tracks you can like individual tracks and think, well, it doesn't matter about the flow because this track is good and then it goes on to another good track and then the next track is good, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't sound cohesive. But I can't lie, it does really matter to me, especially when it's like this. This is very jarring. Like you go from some completely different sounds from track to track, and I like their variety. I like their styles that they're playing with. Just from beginning to end, I'm just kind of a little taken out of the album. I'm not fully in the world of what this album is. And honestly, for my taste, I think there are a few too many slow songs. Like the ballads that they produce on this album, like Ava, is a wonderful ballad just as it is a track on its own. The piano sounds gorgeous on this one, and I really like the vocalist's voice over this instrumental too. I think it works really nicely, but just in context with this album, I just don't know if it fits. I mean, the album starts off, bear in mind that it starts off with this really just thick wall of sound, this industrial like you're just hearing some kind of like warning sound that the world is about to end and you just have no idea what to do. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's to come. And that's exactly what that track gives me. Then we go into this track, Hot Pink, which is my favourite on the album actually, and it's produced by Sophie of all people, who adds her influence on this track. It's so clear that it's a Sophie produced song. Like if you weren't aware that it was a Sophie produced song before this track, you would end this song thinking this is like a Luna George did a song with Sophie, and then you find out that it is Sophie and it all makes sense because this beat is just wild. It doesn't work at all. Like when you listen to this track, the way that it just changes up and the metallic sounds just clash together and the chorus is just all over the place, yet it works. I don't know how they were able to craft this song, but it simultaneously works and also doesn't work. But by the end of it, you're just in love with it because it's just so cool. And it's like the future of pop, really. Like, I feel like in 5 or 6 years, there'll be way more stuff sounding like this. But I don't know, maybe that's one of those things that's like Back to the Future, like, oh, in 2018, there'll be like flying cars, and it doesn't happen. Maybe I'm just being optimistic, I don't know. But yeah, there's nothing else on this album that sounds like this. Like, we don't get any more of this strangeness, this eclectic sounds, and these weird palettes all kind of merging together to craft some amazing piece of art. Like, we kind of just get different like ideas kind of placed on each individual song, which again, for variety, like that's really impressive. It's not just me, it has this really wonderful synth melody to it. It's got some really catchy melodies. Are you feeling the same way? And again, just as an individual song, I would play this again and enjoy it. I would go back to this and return to it and play it in my everyday sort of musical playlist or whatever, that if I was to craft one, this would make its way in there. It's just really jarring to me to go from this to this to this, and it doesn't really connect in a holistic type of way. Because one way to determine how much you love an album is like you play a song randomly from an album that you love, and then you suddenly get the urge to like go back to the album in full. Alex Cameron is a really good example of this. Like, I feel like when I listen to one Alex Cameron song, I'm like, no, I need more of this because it's just too funny and hilarious. I need to hear the whole thing from start to finish. Whereas, like, if I were to do that with this, like, if I listened to, like, It's Not Just Me as an individual song, or Ava, two tracks I really like, I feel like I'd just be like, well, I can't go back to the album based on this because it's not going to sound anything like these songs do, and maybe I want that particular vibe for that particular moment, but I'm not going to get it. I'm going to be like, yeah, this song actually is just a standalone song and we don't get anything else like this from the album, so I'm probably not going to play the whole thing from start to finish. So therefore I can't really call myself a lover of the album. Maybe I'm just overthinking this, I don't know, but that's just how I usually know whether I love an album or not. And I must admit as well, I'm not really a fan of Snakes and Ladders, that kind of really slow, like pounding drumming in the background. It just amounts to nothing and gets a little tiring, in my opinion anyway. And the thing is that at least with tracks like this, I'd want something lyrically engaging, but across most of the album I can't really pull anything out that I'm like head over heels for. Like, it's not badly written at all. I've heard much worse and much more cringy type of stuff, like I'm sure most people have, but like I just feel like there isn't an identity to the vocalist of this album. Yeah, sure, I'm all ears, but I'm not really getting much of anything, if I've got to be honest. I know it sounds like I'm being really negative about this album. Like, I know a lot of people will love it. I know it's going to get a lot of praise, and I don't want to kind of shit on people's parade, but just the way it trails off from Hot Pink is kind of a letdown to me. Like, I just don't know if where it ends up going is what I really wanted from this. There are far too many slower tracks for my taste, but again, overall, individually, a lot of these tracks do actually sound quite good, and they're colourful, and they're pretty vibrant for the most part, I must admit. Even the closing track, that synth like lead that goes on throughout the whole thing, like, even it goes on for nearly 10 minutes, that entire section. The track is about 11 minutes long, but it does switch up a little bit, but that entire track is built on that beat, and I don't really get bored of it for the entire time. So I must admit, they do some impressive things across this album. But overall, this music is solid for what it is. It's a strange review because I'm so conflicted, but overall I do like these sounds that are on this album, but it's just not something that I feel like I'm in love with, so I guess I'm going to have to go a 6.5. I think that is a fair score. I do regard flow as pretty important to me, and you know, track to track, feeling like there's some cohesiveness, that is important too. I just don't get that from this album. I'm left feeling like I wanted more. But yeah, let me know your thoughts from, let's see, Grandma's I'm All Ears album. I'm sure this project will expand their ideas in the future and produce some really cool tracks, especially if they continue down the Sophie route. That could be some greatness coming our way, to be honest, because that track, Hot Pink, is great. So let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you like this review. Comment. Have a good day. Hot pink is the night.